Hello, everybody. This is Rob Warren, the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Marion, North Carolina. What you're about to hear is an excerpt from a night of stand-up comedy that we did at the church as a part of a fundraiser, and I invite you to listen. There are many changes that have happened in life since then, many more stories, and I'll probably upload those soon. But until then, please just sit back, listen, and enjoy.
Somebody asked me what the difference between stories that I can't tell in sermons and stories that I can tell in sermons is. And basically the stories that I'm going to share with you tonight are different because the stories that I share in sermons tend to have a redemptive quality. Someone in them is behaving in a way that's consistent with the Scripture. The stories you're going to hear tonight also have examples of people behaving in accordance with the Scripture, but it falls more on the thou shalt not side than the thou shalt side. One of the other things that my friends were into that I never really understood was strip clubs. And I'm not putting anybody down if you like to go to strip clubs or anything like that. It's just I've worked with former strippers trying to acclimate back into the community, and I know how difficult that can be. But before I kind of saw it as harmful, I saw it as wasteful because it didn't really seem like a good return for my investment. It kind of fit into that if it's this easy for me, it must be this easy for everybody category of relationships. And so I tended to avoid them. I can count on one hand the number of times that I've either been invited or been inside these places. The first time was for a bachelor party for a friend of mine's wedding. I walked through the doors and I heard the music from the strip club soundtrack. And the woman on the stage, with no disrespect intended, looked strikingly like a friend of mine's mother. That same friend was standing at the corner of the stage handing her money. So I had to leave. The second time, also for a bachelor party, there was a young woman dancing, the first person that was dancing. Her name was Miss Behavin'. And I'm sitting there thinking, because again, not in the right mind for a strip club, that this is either a horribly ironic stage name or perhaps a misnomer. And I wanted to ask her a question about it, but I was unwilling to invest the cash that it would take to get her time. So I left. The third time I decided, after I had gone out with my friends, again for another bachelor party, that all I wanted was a clean bathroom and something to read, and I was not going to find that in a strip club, so I dropped them off and left. But the fourth time, and the last time, hopefully, I will ever be in a strip club was actually after I was ordained. I was working at Rosanna Hughes as a chaplain, and four of the gentlemen that lived there decided they were going to go out to a gentleman's club. To quote one of the gentlemen, "We want to see a young woman naked and drink." Being happily married, that did not line up with my goals for the evening. I would rather take my wife out to dinner and let her buy a pair of shoes. So I told them something that I regretted later. I said, "You all have a good time. If you all get into any trouble, give me a call." About 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings. And it's from one of these gentlemen. Apparently, blood thinners and bourbon do not mix well. The four of them have been in this club for at least 5 or 6 hours now, and have decided it's time for them to go home, but none of them are fit to drive. Now, I had to laugh, because I still have my 2-seater truck and tie-downs. But I decided not to do that this particular evening. I told him, I said, "Get a cab." He said, "We would, but we ran out of money a half an hour ago." It was the happiest I had ever heard him. And I told him, I said, "I'll be there as soon as I can get there." I couldn't go in my truck because that would mean ferrying them back and forth. And that is quite against Presbyterian Homes and Services regulations to transport a resident in your personal vehicle. Or I could go and park my truck in the parking lot, leave it there, drive them all home in the car they went in, then take that back and get my truck. Also against company policy, but kind of funny since I had Louisville Seminary stickers all over my truck. I came up with a better option. I went into my closet and I got out my chaplain's shirt. Now, some of you have seen this. It looks like a Roman collar that a lot of priests like to wear, one of the white tab shirts. And I put my chaplain's shirt on, and then I went to Presbyterian Homes to get their activities bus. I'd driven it many times. I was checked out on it. I had insurance. The only problem is it's an enormous 15-passenger white bus with the words Presbyterian Homes and Services written on the side. And I am so glad Judy's not here this evening, because I went to the strip club in the big white bus. Now, surprisingly enough, the club that they had chosen does not have parking for a 15-passenger bus. So I just parked it right up by the door, opened the gate, and went up to the doorman, who said, "I'll need to get your cover." And I said, "You've got to be kidding me." He said, "Well, you're not getting in without a cover." And I said, "Okay, I'll just stand here and talk to the folks that are coming in." Well, apparently he decided that having someone that looked like a priest standing next to the door was going to be bad for business. So he sent someone in, and they asked around, and he came back and he said, "Are you here for the old guys?" Well, I'm not really going to determine their age. I said, "I think I'm here for the gentleman you're talking about." And he said, "Well, go on in and get them." Now, I'm, again, not going to tell you to go to a strip club. But if you ever have to go to a strip club and you have the chance to go looking like a Catholic priest, take it. I walked through the door, and the strip club soundtrack playing in the background. I walked through the door and silence. All the conversation stops except for one table. And from that table I hear, "Pastor Rob, over here!" As if I didn't already know where they were sitting. At this point, one of their companions for the evening sees me dressed in my clerical collar, and obviously a person of faith decides to make a break for the back. I want to tell you that it is impressive. Not for the display, but because running on a tile floor in those kind of heels cannot be easy. But I get to the table where the gentlemen are seated with their 3 other companions for the evening, who aren't wearing enough clothing to make a washcloth, but who are wearing enough body glitter to accurately recreate a model of our galaxy. And I said, "Okay, guys, it's time to go." Now, I had to help one of them to the car, not because he'd had too much to drink, but because his cane had mysteriously disappeared. I have yet to find out what happened to that cane. I don't want to know what happened to that cane. But I helped them back to the car, and of course, we're hugging, because when you've bonded over bourbon and blood thinners, you must hug. And so I'm hugging all of the guys, and yes, it's late. Yes, I'm glad you had such a great... You spent how much money? Wonderful. Get on the bus now. Let's all get on the bus. So we get them on the bus. I get them on the bus. I take them back to Rosanna Hughes, get them back to their apartments. Another round of hugs, great stories to tell. And I go home, and I don't think anything about it until about 2.5, 3 years later, when I'm at Meadowview as the pastor. And a member of this church calls me and asks me to borrow that chaplain's shirt for a play that she's doing. And I pull it out of the closet, look down, and realize it is covered in body glitter.